Last year, I sat at my dining room table and filmed the Maundy Thursday service. We should then have been having a meal together as we had done in previous years. And I said, next year we'll be together again. But sadly, this isn't the reality. But as we move towards Easter Sunday and into the Easter season, there is a glimmer of light. Let us pray that soon we'll be back worshipping together. Jesus' last night with his friends was spent in the upper room. That's where they gathered around a table for their meal. This would be a meal that was familiar to them, the Passover meal, celebrated every year to give thanks to God for their release from slavery in Egypt. And still today, Jewish families meet to celebrate this night with a meal retelling the story of their exodus out of Egypt. But this particular Passover meal on this night, when Jesus was at table with them, his disciples were going to be discovering was very different than they'd ever experienced before. Pictures of the Last Supper depict Jesus and the disciples sitting in chairs the way we do it, but actually they probably reclined on cushions around a table on the floor. There were two really important things that happened at this meal. It was the first time Jesus took bread and wine, blessed them and said, "This is my body and this is my blood." Every time we celebrate communion, we remember this night when Jesus shared himself with his disciples around the table. He promised that he continues to come to us, even today, in the bread and wine. The pandemic has put this on hold, but we have at times been able to make a spiritual communion during this past year. We generally celebrate Holy Communion when the community comes together. The meal isn't just about the bread and the wine. It's about receiving this gift from one another and with one another. During our social distancing these days, we're fasting from Holy Communion and look forward to the day when we will all gather again to receive our living Lord, who gives himself to us in this amazing way. I hope as many as possible will be able to come together in the churchyard at Horn on Easter Sunday to celebrate Christ rising from the dead. But before Jesus even got to the part where he gave his disciples the bread and the wine for the first time, he did something to show them how much he loved them. He knelt before them and washed their feet. This was his way of showing them that, like him, they needed to love and serve one another in humility. He gave them a new commandment, that they love one another as he loved them. In fact, the word Maundy means command. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with a towel that was around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has been bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet and put on his robe and returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." When we come together to worship in our church building on Maundy Thursday, we end our time together with the stripping of the altar, as we hear a portion of Psalm 22 sung or said. And all the sacred ornaments are removed: cross, candles, altar book, linens, paraments, and the Bible is finally removed from its place on the lectern. When it is finished, the altar is completely bare. It reminds us of the bareness of life without the hope of Christ that we have through his resurrection. Psalm 22 foreshadows the death of Jesus on the cross and leads us into the sorrow of Good Friday. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame.
place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them asleep, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough, the hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." After the Last Supper, Jesus went out to the Garden of Gethsemane. Here at St. Bartholomew's, we will have a shortened watch in the Lady Chapel, with the reserved sacrament at the centre. Let us watch and wait. Let us watch and wait with Jesus until his betrayal and arrest. God's blessing to all of you as we discover new ways of worshipping God through these days of distancing. Even when 2 or 3 are not gathered together, I can assure you that Jesus is in the midst of us.
The shadows lengthen. In ordinary times, we would extinguish candles as we recounted the shadows that surround Jesus this night. The betrayal of Judas, the denial of Peter, the hate and fear of Jesus' enemies, the anguish of the garden prayer, the horrors of the cross. As we're reminded, the darkness is necessary in order to see the light. But tonight, we do not let ourselves leap ahead to the end of the story. We stay here in the darkness. We are in darkness now. It is a time of unknowing. Into this time of unknowing, Jesus comes. He gives us the new commandment to love one another as he has loved us, to love one another. This is what darkness calls for us to love one another, for us to be a small, affirming flame, remembering the power of love as light in the darkness. Our hearts burn within us as the evening proceeds. We follow him outside beneath a starry sky. He kneels to pray. His body writhes in anguish. We cannot bear to watch. We fall asleep. 3 times he wakes us. Twice we fall back into the stupor of sleep. The 3rd time, the arrival of our brother Judas and a large crowd shocks us into wakefulness. Judas kisses him. The soldiers arrest him. The temple governors look on with approval. We are doomed. he is dragged off. Despite our best intentions, we flee. We cannot help but flee. When we are sore afraid, we flee, we fight, or we freeze. We have no control over these responses. They are our brain's way of keeping us alive. There is no need for shame, though we do feel it. The disciples fled at the arrest. Peter overcame his fear for a brief moment and then retreated back into it, denying that he knew Jesus 3 times before the cock crowed twice. We want to condemn him, but deep inside we know that we who would have done the same thing. The sanctuary is dark now. We are alone with our vulnerability, our humanity. We look up. From whence will our help come?
and pray. Watch and pray. Stay with him if this cannot pass me by. With watch and drink it. Watch and pray. Stay with me, remain here with me. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. Stay with me, remain here with me. Watch and pray. Watch and pray.